one of the things that she looks forward to is her summers off, so she can spend time, with him. And so that is something that, we thought about when we were younger. It took us a while to get there, but now I think she feels like that's paying off, that balance there. So that is a question I think most of us should ask. And so, for example, what are jobs that you can have that balance? Certainly teaching, but what else? What else could be a job that you feel like is enough balance in there? Is there any other field where you can say, you know what, yeah, that's okay, working in if you had a family and stuff type job? I think social work would be okay. You think there'd be enough balance in there?
Again, it kind of depends on which part of it I'm working in, because like in cases like with DHS, I can imagine that there'd be times where you had to work pretty late or long hours. But working in a school, more of a school setting, I can imagine you'd have that nice balance again of having the summers off. And
like school counselor, that type stuff. What about, if you're in private practice, do you feel like you could kind of create your own hours to a certain degree?
You could, but again, private practice, to make it pay off, you're still working for yourself. You got to put the hours in, and unless you've got the money to hire a bunch of other therapists, then you're as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. What about, when we talk about independence, working on your own? So that kind of goes into, your own private practice. It may require a little bit more time and effort depending on the circumstances. I mean, once you get established, it's probably going to be a little bit easier. But in those beginning years, creating your own practice, I would imagine would be harder. But what fields, could potentially you could go into if you're talking about more of an independence, kind of, working on your own? What degree, what degree would be good for that? What are some examples? What about business? A business degree? I mean, if you're ever going to own your own, business, maybe having a business background could potentially help. What about computer science? To a degree. I mean, there is a little bit of independence that comes with that, depending on what the job is. I mean, you may not have to deal with a lot of people. You may just be working on the computer and taking care of IT issues, but not necessarily having to work with people all the time. There's maybe a little bit more independence at times. Also, you may want to determine whether or not money is important. Is a high-paying job your priority? Because that's going to basically cut out certain jobs right there. So I mean, if your only objective is to make a lot of money, then obviously becoming a teacher or social work, I mean, it's not going to happen. And so you have to factor that stuff in. And so obviously status, title, climbing that ladder, you can see that kind of in the business sector, to a degree. Philanthropy, I don't think many of us are going to be there because typically you have to have a lot of money in order to get there, I would imagine, to some degree. And so, some other questions, and we're close to done here. So I think these are probably some of the most important questions that you need to ask when you are getting ready to choose that major. So for number one, look at the list of undergrad majors. And so like I brought the course catalog. A school's course catalog is probably the best thing that you can do when you're starting off, is just kind of glance through there. Because course catalog is going to have all the different classes that you have to take for a particular major. It's also going to describe them in detail, what each class, how it's structured and what you learn in there. It's also a way where, let's say you decide, I want to be an engineer, or I want to do this, or then I would say look at that course catalog, specifically at that major, what classes are offered, and ask yourself, what classes there do you like or you think are interesting, and what are the ones that you don't really want to take? And if you start adding up, I don't want to take this class, I don't want to take this, I don't want to take that, that should be a sign that you could potentially have some problems in that area. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't try, maybe taking some classes that kind of give you a kind of an idea of whether or not you can go in that area. So like, for example, if you want to go in the science field, or chemistry, or whatever it may be, take some of more of the required classes that you have. Obviously you have to take a life science, you have to take a physical science here. Try to take Chem 1 or general biology. If you want to go up, become a biology major, take that class. See if you have a little bit of an interest in there. Because if, let's say you take Chem 1 and you realize, I absolutely hate Chem 1, well, you're going to be taking a lot of chemistries if you're majoring in chemistry, or even, bioscience. And so, or biochemistry. You need to, kind of give yourself an idea. So taking one class, especially as an undergrad, that kind of relates to that can give you a better idea if it's the right choice, you know. So like when I took college algebra and I took, biology, and then I took astronomy, because I was basically doing everything I could to get away from not having to do a lot of math, so that's why I took astronomy for my physical science. And so that right there kind of showed me why I wasn't going to go in that area when I'm doing everything I can to avoid the math component in these science classes. And so I learned pretty quick, But by taking the English courses, the history classes, the government class, I knew that I could do that. I like that. So try to find undergrad classes for your general ed classes that may tie into a potential major. But looking at the undergrad catalog at least can kind of give you an idea of what you're going to encounter. I did that when I was choosing my major for political science, because remember I went and I visited the college, I talked to the advisor, he showed me all the classes that I'd have to take, and some of what my electives could be and stuff, and to me, I thought, what, I can sign up for that, I like that, I think that would be interesting. And honestly, I didn't see one class I didn't like on that list, and so that to me was a good sign there. Also, talk to an academic advisor or faculty mentors. So, I mean, if you're not really sure what you want to major in, sometimes just going to the department and talking to them. They'll most likely go over the course catalog with you a little bit, what you would, what your options, could be. And also, I would say, the one thing that I liked when I went and I visited, the college I transferred to, was that one of the things that I knew going into it, let's say if I went there and the advisor was rude to me, they didn't really care, they didn't answer my questions, they didn't seem to care, to me that would have been a warning sign that maybe I shouldn't go to that college. If they're not willing to answer my questions now, how are they going to treat me when I'm in the program? And so that's kind of a good way to do that. So talking to advisors, getting the information, kind of getting a feel for that department, I think is a good thing. And then, obviously meet with, a career counselor. I mean, we have career, services here. Set up a job shadow. We do have a job shadowing program here. So that's, I think, a good, thing to do. And our last slide here, kind of sum up things, what we've done. I mean, at the end of the day, you need to ask those important questions. Unfortunately, I didn't ask all those questions when I was in college. I mean, for better or for worse, I didn't ask. But I do feel like in the end, even though I made mistakes along the way, I still kind of got pushed into the area that I felt like I should have been in, to begin with. And so it was a little bumpy ride at times, I guess. Know what your interests are, your skills, values. Obviously the steps you need to take in order to choose a major. At the end, do research. Actually do some research before you get too far into the program, because if you don't, you may be going back to change that major again. And I would say, you could potentially lose a lot of time as a result. So, questions? All right, that's all I've got for you. So just fill out your evaluations and we'll be done.